What's going on, everybody? All right, Dumatra Gaming here. Just wanted to do a quick impromptu live stream. I had some people asking me about the. Sorry, let me get rid of the echo. Had people asking me about the ethnicity or the race or the, you know, depiction of Yahusha in Revelation. So this can be very easily answered, and I do this just because it sheds more light, right, on what Revelation really was talking about, right? So if we look in Revelation, and actually because I think it may even say it more than once. Yeah, so it's first okay. So it's first said in Daniel 10:6. So let's talk about that. Okay. So it says his body was like beryl, his face like the brilliance of lightning, his eyes were like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of polished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a multitude. Only I, Daniel, saw the vision. Right. So the men with me did not see it, but a great terror fell upon them, and they ran and hid themselves. So. Oh man, sorry. So let's talk about what that means, right? So burnished bronze. It's literally Revelation is actually depicting what Daniel saw. So it said his feet were like polished bronze, refined in a furnace, and his voice was like the roar of many waters. Right. So it's the same depiction. But okay, so people will look at that and say, well, his feet were like burnished bronze, and so that must mean that, he was very dark-skinned. Well, first and foremost, he was Hebrew. He came to the people of Israel to be the Meshuach. So there's no denying that the people of Israel were darker skinned, right? I mean, that would be ignorant to say that. Especially, like, let's say, for example, if you lived in the desert for 40 years, you really think that you wouldn't be darker skinned? No, not at all. However, it must also be noted that if he were to be like radically different colored than the people that saw him as Meshuach, I'm pretty sure that it would have been noted. There would have been something else about it where they would have been like, hey, he does not look like us, right? I don't think they would have just like not mentioned it ever, except for at the very end of the Bible, which is Revelation, right? So let's talk about what this means, though. If his feet were like polished bronze, and his arms too, because Daniel does say his arms, but he's actually in a dressed in a long robe with a golden sash around his chest. So it's possible that the robe was covering his arms, so he wasn't able to see that his arms were like polished bronze either. But let's talk about that. And people also bring this too. They say, well, the hair of his head was white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like a blazing fire. Well, they'll be like, so white like wool. Well, what kind of ethnicity's hair is like wool? Well, it also says that it was white as snow. So he's using allusions to say, okay, his hair was white, right, which was probably radically different from what he did look like when he lived. I'm sure he wasn't walking around with white hair. However, it's worth mentioning that wool is described here because what was Yahusha? Well, he was the lamb, right? What do lambs have? They have wool. Rams and lambs, they have wool, right? And at this point, he may be more a ram than he was a lamb. But anyway, so just to touch on this, so I'm going to look up something called, and I find it every now and then, but sometimes it's hard to find. But it's like what the first temple looked like. If we go to images, I've found it before through this. And we're not talking about the tabernacle, right? We're talking about Solomon's temple. And the inside of it it had a very specific layout, which, you know, it had to follow this very specific layout. So, let's see. The layout of Solomon's temple. Okay, yeah, this is it right here. So, that's like, no, this isn't even the one. Where is the one that has like the... Okay, well, man, where is it? Okay, yeah, this is perfect. This will work. So, if we look at it, obviously it's a little hard because it's, here, let's open this in a new tab, and I guess I don't know if I can twist this, but what would be the best? Okay, this is probably the best way to look at this. So, in Revelation, Yahusha is the temple. That's what we need to come to realize. As he's being depicted, he is the temple, right? So you can see here, I know it's blurry, but just hear me out. Right here, this is called the brazen altar, right? And there were two pillars right here on the side of it that were made of bronze, like burnished bronze. So when he says the feet of him were like polished bronze or brazen bronze, he's talking about that because his layout is like the temple. His feet are here. This is his body, right? Right here, number 6, is the incense altar. That's like the mouthpiece. And then inside, you've got the MHP, the most holy place, would be like the head of him. So do you see how this illusion is working? And these right here on the sides, where his arms would be, are bronze braziers. And then there's 12 steps up into the inner part of the temple where the altar of incense is. So it's very easy to deduce that this is what they meant by his feet, right? His legs were like bronze, because that's the brazen altar at the base of the inside of the temple, the inner court, right? The outer court was the earth. The inner court was the heavens, okay? The heavens and the earth will pass away. Well, they did with the destruction of the temple. Okay, that's what the ancient Israels and ancient Hebrews referred to the temple as, the heavens and the earth. So, and just to lay out more and to bring even more credence to what I mean by like the altar of incense being the mouth of him. So in Revelation, it says for half an hour. Where is it? Okay, it's like right. It's gosh, I just wish I knew right off the top of my head. I don't though, unfortunately. But here we go. Revelation 8:1. Okay, so Revelation 8:1. It even specifically states, when the Lamb opened the 7th seal, okay, like the Lamb, so who's the Lamb? Well, Yahusha is the Lamb. The 7th seal, well, if you watch my last video that I did yesterday on my live stream, I talked about it. That's the pieces of linen that he was wrapped in when he was buried, right? So the final piece was opened. It probably was the one that went around his mouth. If we start from his feet, there's probably 7 pieces of linen wrapped around him. The last piece was probably around like his mouth or face area. So when it was opened, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Okay? And I saw the 7 angels who stood before, and they were given 7 trumpets. But anyway, what does this mean, right? Okay, the half an hour. That's because the incense, when they were burned at the altar, nobody was to speak. They were praying. And the incense would lift their prayers into the MHP. So into this part right here. And nobody would speak and the incense had to burn for half an hour. Same with it was a Levitical law that the Israelis, the Yahudim, should have enough lamp oil to keep a menorah lit for at least half an hour, all prongs of it. So that's what this means, and that just gives more credence to the mouth of him being the altar. So that's all I had, real quick, just to spread some knowledge, to let you guys know, what's really meant by this stuff. And look, it's even funny because, you've got the neck of stairs. Well, that's right where the mouth was. So, I mean, this all is very symbolic. It takes a lot of, knowledge of, Hebrew religion and customs. And I'm not Hebrew. I'm not a Yahudin, but I just had to do my own research on it. So that's all I've got for right now. Hopefully you guys find this video informative and, hopefully it makes sense, right? All right. Till next time.